Hello, welcome to Wilton Town Talks. I'm your host, Will Vigiano.
And I'm Liam Smith.
Today we're getting to know Betsy Helmuth.
So, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm an interior designer. I own Uploft Interior Design, and I've been doing this for 20 years.
So how'd you get into interior design?
Well, I never expected to be an interior designer. When I was in high school, it was the furthest thing from my mind. But I studied art, visual art, and theater. And then I moved to New York City to be a painter, and I started painting paintings for people's apartments. And then I would see their apartments and be like, oh my gosh, you have so much money for a painting, but you have no furniture. This place is tragic. And I knew how much they were paying in rent because these places were amazing, right? Big lofts and spaces in Tribeca or the Upper West Side. So one day I just got a little big for my britches, and I said, you have a lot of money for a painting, but this place needs a couch. What if I just pick out your furniture instead, and then we'll see if I have anything left over, and I can also make you a painting. And so he said yes, and that kind of started my love of interior design.
That's amazing. I wish I had you because my room's a little bit messy. Do you have any strategies of how you go about starting a project?
Yeah, so the first thing is that I ask my clients to look for inspiration photos. What do you want it to look like? What colors do you prefer? Can you find an image that encapsulates a space you'd want to be in? Because then we can have like a jumping off point and say, okay, so you love blue, you love green, and you're really liking this rustic wood. And from there, we can kind of decide, what do you need functionally? Right? Do you need more storage for clothes? Is that why it's so messy? Do you need a desk with drawers because you have a lot of papers? So we kind of are solving problems at the same time that I'm getting to know you and what you like.
So could you give us an example of something you're working on currently?
Yes. So I just finished a vet's office. So we designed it from just a shell of a space. Basically, it had no walls. It was just a concrete floor. And we designed the paint colors, the features in terms of special beams that are just purely decorative, not structural, but they add a lot of wow to the space.
So you really do everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Residential, commercial. But my favorite is residential because it really impacts how people live. Where you're watching TV with your family every night, where you're eating dinner. It's something that can really change your family dynamic and make your life so much better.
That's amazing. So we're looking at two of your amazing books here. What was the process like when you decided to make these?
Writing a book is tough. I'm writing a third book right now. And I was teaching interior design classes in the city because I really like to make interior design accessible. I have a podcast and I love to share tips and help people to make their own space nice. They don't have to hire someone to have a great space. So I was teaching these classes and somebody came to my class who was in PR. And at her public relations firm, they helped people get book deals. So she's like, do you want a book deal? I was like, yes, I do. So basically, I took my classes and put it into these books.
And you still teach now?
I don't. I have online classes. And so I guess the answer is yes. Yes, I do, Will. I have online classes. And then also, I teach people to be interior designers because so many people are excited by the trade. And now you really hear a lot more than when I started about interior design as a profession. So it really is possible to be an interior designer if that's the path you want to go down, and I teach people how.
That's amazing. How does the youth of Wilton get involved with something like interior design?
Well, I think the first thing is that you have to have a passion for art, but you also have to have an interest in math. A lot of people think that this is just an art-focused profession, but I would say 50% of what I do is geometry, making different shapes fit in different spaces and figuring out proportion and spatial relationships so that you don't have a sectional that's way too big for the room or a dining table where every time you pull out your chair, you're hitting the wall. So it's critical that you enjoy math because I make a lot of floor plans, a lot of technical numbers and conversions, and art as well. So I would say if you like both those things, I would talk to an interior designer on my podcast, which is called Affordable Interior Design. I talk a lot about how to get started in the industry. There's lots of different types of interior designers and different ways to be an interior designer. So just because you like furniture and you like art, you're still going to need to pick a path in order to decide where you want to go to school.
Do you have a favorite part about your job?
Yes.
What is it?
Do you like peeking into other people's spaces? Like when I take
Yeah.
my kids around on Halloween, I'm always like looking behind the parent who's handing out the candy. I'm like, look at that chandelier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a peeping Tom. I love to look inside. When I lived in Manhattan, I would walk down the street and look in people's windows because a lot of them didn't have curtains. And so it's so intriguing to me, not only to see these really cool and different spaces, but also to meet these people that live in these spaces. So I love that every day is different. Every day I'm meeting new people, seeing new places I've never been before. I'm never bored.
Wow. How has your design style changed over the years?
That is a great question, because when I got started, I had a really specific style. Did you guys ever watch The Brady Bunch?
Yes.
Okay, so it's mid-century modern, colors, like these kind of jewel tones with oranges and yellows, and that's my favorite personal style to design in. But none of my clients like that. Do you know any of your friends or anybody you know who has a house that looks like the Brady Bunch?
Yeah.
No, because nobody wants that. Only I want that. So I had to give that up really quickly and adapt to my clients' styles. Still, secretly, my favorite style is this mid-century modern with the bold patterns and the crazy colors, but I never get to design in that anymore, not even for myself, because my husband and children don't want to live like that. So I've had to adapt, and now I appreciate a lot more styles because I have to work in them all the time.
Now, when you're working on a project, do you usually decide how you want the style to be, or does the client usually let you know how they want it to be?
The client. The client drives the style. That's why when you asked me earlier how I get started or sort of what the process is, I start by having my clients pick out inspiration photos, because I want them to show me the world that they envision themselves living in, what feels good and exciting to them, so that I can check out the picture and reflect it back to them in a way that's practical and fits their budget, because I work with tight budgets.
Never thought about it like that. That's really interesting.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, those were really great questions. I think the key is that something that makes my business different than most interior designers is I do work on tight budgets. So most interior designers and sort of the world of interior design is known for high-end and custom things, but I adapt to any budget. I give everything from free advice to budget flat rate plans to working with billionaires. So I have done it all, and I'm doing it all currently. I'm working on a $5 million space, and I'm working on a studio apartment, all in the same day. So I just want people to know that in order to have a lovely home that feels really personal and that you're proud of, you don't have to spend a lot of money. It is definitely within reach. And there's lots of ways for you to do it yourself if you're inspired to, by listening to a podcast or reading my book. Or, of course, you can hire somebody like me.
You've done so many amazing things in your career. Is there one point that you're just the most proud of?
That's a really great question.
Or maybe a favorite project?
Favorite project. I have done thousands of projects. I used to take 6 projects a week when I lived in the
Wow.
city and was single. And now I still take a lot of projects. I'm working on 5 projects right now. So over the course of 20 years, that's a ton of spaces and a ton of clients. I think the most exciting thing for me is working on tight budgets. I love the challenge. I love people thinking this is something I could never afford to do. I don't know how this space could ever look better, and then transforming it to something that was beyond what they could even think about without them worrying about credit card debt or being like, oh my gosh, I overspent and now I'm so stressed, or now we're gonna have to eat mac and cheese and ramen for the next 6 months because I spent too much on my couch. That's not what we want, right? So I love making things accessible to people who didn't think it was possible. Of course, I love working with my billionaires, but they don't appreciate it like someone else who really didn't even think they could get there.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So your timeline, how long exactly, roughly would it take you to build a certain project?
Well, mostly I work with spaces that are already constructed. So the vet's office is sort of an anomaly in that it had no walls, no flooring, nothing. But most of my people's spaces, they've just moved into a new house or a new apartment. I create the design plan in 2 weeks. So from the day I meet them and say hello and walk into their space to the day they have their shopping list is 2 weeks. Then they have to buy the things, and the things have to come, and that can take another 2 to 4 weeks. And then I return with my team of handymen, and we put it all together in 2 days. So it can be less than 2 months if everybody's quick on the draw in terms of making decisions and saying yes to things. But sometimes
Takes a lot
clients
longer.
want revisions. Like, Betsy, I don't like that. Last night I was working in office space and I got an email. My client said, those chairs don't look comfortable. So it's a tight office. We need small chairs.
Yeah.
We can't have recliners in here. But he wanted it to feel a little bit more comfortable. So I have to go back to the drawing board and send him new chairs this evening.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this. If there's anything else you'd want to add, feel free. But I think we're good.
Yep, that was Will and Town Talks. I'm your host, Liam.
And I'm your host, Will Vigiano.
And thank you, Betsy, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Bye.